Okay, so there are a couple of things I want to talk about today. First of all, I'm going to shill my Euro Truck stream tonight, 9 PM, Omegon Plays channel, link below. One of the stories I want to cover, though, is quite unusual, and it centres around a kind of 100-year-old law, a really old one. For this, we need Anna Wintour and Deborah Cutler, stepsisters. We also need to add John and Marjorie Ann Scarl, both of whom had a child from a previous marriage, earlier mentioned Anna Wintour and Deborah Cutler. Sadly, in October of 2016, John and Marjorie passed away of hypothermia in their home in Leigh-on-Sea during a rather arduous litigation, which you would have thought meant both Deborah and Anna would have kept the property between them, shared it even. It went to the High Court. Now, this is quite strange because, to me, it makes sense because you cannot ascertain, forensics were not able to ascertain especially, who died first. Why this matters is because it went to the High Court. Had it not gone to High Court, it would have simply been a case that the assets would have been shared equally, assets of which totaled around £300,000. No doubt that's going to go down a bit, having spent money pointlessly on a High Court battle. The greedy one in this story is Anna Wintour, the daughter of Mr. Scarl, John, because she wanted the entire property, with Deborah Cutler offering a very fair share of 50-50. The judge, though, and this is the part that I find to be most peculiar, decided to take the stance that because John Scarl was 10 years older, it was, and I quote, probable that he died first. Now, I don't know about you, or anyone else for that matter, but for me, which is why at this present time I'm wearing this, that is an inadequate answer. Granted, when they both died, it was unlikely that they were going to do an autopsy and work out who died first, because it's very difficult to work that out when you die roughly around the same time. However, you do not operate under non-absolutes. Therefore, it would have been reasonable for the judge to rule right down the middle. In fact, that is what I would have done, because that makes sense. But Anna got greedy, and Anna lost. There was a similar case of this back in the 1950s, back to the Battle of Britain, when a family was obliterated by the same bomb in Cheyne Walk, London. The judge even said there were too many variables and unknowns to allow him to say which couple survived longest in the house. There is one final factor that, had Anna Wintour not gotten so selfish, would have meant she might have stood a chance of getting 50-50, but actually this in fact sways it more than the probable death of John Scarl first, and that is that the Scarl couple bought the house in 1988 using proceeds of Mrs. Scarl's house in Westcliff, meaning the house, while joint in their name, was actually hers anyway. Anna shouldn't have gotten so greedy, I think. The next story I want to cover concerns a knife-wielding man in Sydney, a man with a history of mental illnesses who is now a suspect of killing one woman and stabbing another in, well, Sydney, Australia. He was stopped in a rather ingenious manner when members of the public were able to pin him on his back using a milk crate. You're right, everyone. Let's ban guns. Let's ban knives. Now let's ban milk crates. To the British men that did that, I salute you. I didn't know milk crates were still a thing. I thought they went the way of the dinosaurs along with milkmen. I mean, my dad. I'm sorry, I couldn't take that seriously. As far as the Muslim convert goes that was shouting Allahu Akbar, or God is great, how does it feel to be on the receiving end of true British power? It is quite frightening, isn't it? When you get put down with a wooden chair and a milk crate. I hope, because of what happened, you get the help you need, but you also serve the time for what you did. I'm sure there will be much done to help you with your mental health while you are behind bars for a considerable length of time. Unsurprising, the police have not labelled this an act of terrorism, although I'm sure you and I, the audience, lovely audience, hello, will agree that this is in fact an act of terrorism. But as many of you will understand, this is only for as long as the investigation continues. Until it is concluded, it cannot be declared. It should be noted the memes regarding this are amazing, although somewhat inaccurate, referencing that the men who stopped the armed idiot as Australian. No. They are not convicts. They are English, and therefore superior, Fuck you, Quax. You know, I had a whole subject planned about something in Germany that really caught my eye and I found really interesting, but I think I'm going to save it for tomorrow because I think justice should be the theme of today's video. Many people have pounced on this as another excuse to ban knives, much like they do with gun control in the US. People like Elizabeth Warren guaranteeing within the first 100 days if she's elected that she'll introduce legislation that just effectively bans guns. It's not the weapon that's the problem. It never was. It is the person who desires to harm another person. That is the problem. It is always going to be an argument that eventually devolves into semantics. But in reality, a weapon is not a weapon. The person is the weapon. The weapon you think is a weapon is just a tool. It serves a purpose. And based on what we saw, anything could be a weapon, including a milk crate. If we take this far enough with a bit of reductio ad absurdum, the Crunchy bar on my desk could be considered a weapon if I'd force-fed it down someone who's lactose intolerant's throat. I know someone pedantically is going to say, not quite heard it. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean, though? It's not really about the weapon, and you're trying to scapegoat it as such, because you're not fully understanding the cause of the problem. It's like when people attack economics and think the only way to deal with it is to spend your way out of it, but not really being accountable in the process. It's a false equivalence, but it's that whole inability to understand what you're doing. When it comes to addressing weapon-related crimes, you need to understand the person, the motivation, whether it be gang-related, whether it be race-related, whether it be faith-related. It doesn't matter. Any kind of ideology, basically all of those account for it. It doesn't matter. Politics, of course, is another highly charged one as of late. It should never be about what they use, but why they're doing it in the first place. In effect, they're all fascists, because they can't resolve their disputes without resorting to violence. They are the uncivilized. It is unfortunate that people like this exist, think that the only way to be known is to hurt another. People who do that aren't worth remembering. Their actions should be remembered, because we then learn from it. But eventually they will be forgotten, because we as a society don't accept violence as an answer, unless it is in the form of a combat sport. The point is, you can go around banning weapons. You can do that all day long. It's not going to stop people from obtaining weapons. As we have learnt, a man walking down the street menacingly with a potato peeler can be arrested. I'm sure given time, the stylus from a drawing tablet will be considered an offensive weapon. Let's not forget here, it is possible to be arrested in the United Kingdom for a hate crime. So as we now know, thought can potentially be a malicious weapon. Might I suggest it's about time we let the robots take over and we all get jacked into the Matrix. At least then in our physical forms, we are of no danger to each other. Or we just walk around perpetually in bubble wrap. Or I'm sure someone's going to have an allergy to the material used to make bubble wrap. I think I've made my point. I don't care for banning weapons. I am more interested in helping those who feel the need to resort to their issues with violence. This fool earlier from the Sydney attacks has a history of mental illnesses. Hopefully he gets help for that, and that he also spends time for the murder he may have committed. And as far as the first case goes, Anna Wintour, bitch, you got greedy. Oh, you got greedy. Oh well, live and learn. It's not like either of you won anyway. After legal expenses, you probably got nothing anyway. Besides all that, if I don't see you tonight over on the Omegon Plays channel, I hope you all have a lovely Thursday, and thank you all for listening.